But I guess while we wait, I can go ahead and give a quick introduction. Hey everybody, appreciate everybody joining. Welcome to the 2022 version of our Black Friday Cyber Monday Teardown. My name is Griffin. I'm a partner manager here at Clevu. And today we're going to spend time diving into Black Friday Cyber Monday with some industry experts, which I'm super excited to have on the call. They'll talk to us about some of the trends they saw over this Black Friday Cyber Monday and, share maybe some interesting stories that some of their clients saw. So firstly, let's just start off with some introductions of our great panelists. I'd love to hear from you guys, whether you actually bought anything yourselves on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or any personal experiences. So Greg, maybe I'll just start with you and we can go from there.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hi, Greg, by the way, solution manager at the Benic website. Just, I don't know if we were supposed to introduce ourselves at the same time.
Absolutely.
On Black Friday, I did what I'm sure most people do. I bought Christmas gift for family, friends, etc. And I also splurged on that sweater.
There we go.
Sell as well. But it's pretty much it. Like, just doing stuff for others.
Yeah, I think this is the first year where I actually got my Christmas shopping done like before the last couple days leading up to Christmas. So this was quite the improvement for me in that regard. What about you, Brian? Would you anything on Black Friday for you?
Yes, indeed. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Brian Benic, head of client growth at Binary Anvil. From a personal experience, it was interesting. I noticed SMS, just my text messages going through the roof this year. And I can't say that historically I've made purchases from a text, but this year I did. It was from an old purchase I made, months and months ago. And the brand that got me, I'm not an affiliate for them, but it's called H-Proof, which is it's a hangover prevention chewable vitamin. And
there we go.
This is helpful for when you want to have that extra glass of wine. It works. It totally works. So it's a great stocking stuffer. I picked up a few bottles for friends and family. So, but yeah, all from a text, and ended up spending a lot of money with them.
There you go. Well, that's good to hear that it works though. That's your, a good endorsement. A good endorsement there. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, hey everybody. I lead the delivery operations and solution architecture. And I think I saw a lot what Brian said. I got a lot of SMS messages that I probably haven't gotten traditionally before. Typically, especially the agency world on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, my email's flooded with clients, and my personal email is not even an option to check, right? So, but text messages got my attention as I'm taking maybe certain breaks or early in the morning or late at night. So I definitely found myself buying more than I would have in the past on Cyber Monday, especially just from some of the offers. And it was very targeted too. I got like some of the items that were sent to me. It wasn't just a generic go to this website, right? It was very targeted for like a daily discount type of deal. Like they're saying, hey, today only we're selling this item. So that's, I think, what got me to ultimately buy. I'm usually a procrastinator. I still have procrastinated. I probably won't buy all my stuff until the 23rd. I'm the guy that has to shut. I'm glad, buy online, pick up in stores around, because I definitely leverage that much more than, in the past. It was me waiting in line with 7 other guys waiting to buy whatever was left, at the Macy's gift counter or something, So.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I know. I think it sounds like they were kind of creating a little bit of urgency by being like, listen, Brian, we know, we have this thing for you, Dave. We know you want it, but you got to buy it today to take care of this, deal or whatever's going on. That's interesting. Maybe targeting the male audience a little more that procrastinates with their shopping. So, but what about overall, in terms of, and we'll start with you here, Brian, what did you expect to happen over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, from an agency perspective? Was there any, differences in performance, good or bad, that, maybe some of your customers saw or you guys saw as an agency in whole? Just kind of talk about what were expectations versus kind of reality of what happened.
Sure. I feel prep for Cyber Weekend always starts early, but this year across the board, all the brands and merchants were ready or gunning to start even earlier, meaning code freeze occurred early. And for agencies like us, that means that, you really have to plan to get any sort of enhancements or initiatives done well in advance, well before that code freeze. Performance-wise, we prepared for traffic and volume. We're pleased with how our client sites held up. We have one client who saw site traffic increase by over 40% over last year. So a lot of incoming traffic. And we have one client who really started to mature their email campaign, and they made claims that just one single email send brought back more returning customers than ever before. So they're pointing back to just this one send, but we're still collecting numbers across the board. We've seen an increase in orders by at least 7% for each client. So still tracking those numbers, but it was certainly a good season, and performance wise, thumbs up.
That's great. What about you, Greg? What did you guys see?
The same, like a lot of work that were prepped in advance. Like we started like telling our client in August, to be honest, like get ready for anything that you want done by Black Friday, or anything that you want to push on your site by Black Friday, because we need the time to scope it, to make sure that it's going to be well built and that we're going to have time to test it before going it live. And same for clients and new clients that come in and say, we want something by Black Friday. It's like, I'm sorry, guys, like that's not how it works. You should plan in advance. Definitely a lot, like, and to pick up also on the shopping, like I see a lot of targeted through social media as well. Like a lot of traffic coming in from Instagram, TikTok, like any type of target audience based on the market they're all serving for, obviously, but a big increase in that, like showing like the type of deal that they're presenting on their site, people clicking on it. And that's also where search is a great is quite important in those cases, to be able to find the article that caught your attention when you're looking at an ad on social media. But yeah, like a lot of prep beforehand. A lot of clients were also asking, like all the way back to January, to make sure that the logistic was on board. Something that's good to see that for once they plan in advance.
Yeah, that was always one of the interesting things for me being in the e-commerce world, was just getting used to how far people plan ahead, right? You get through kind of Q2 and then all eyes shift to the holidays. So it's interesting. With something that was, being new to the e-commerce world, that I had to learn how much planning goes around the months leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all that. Really, the whole year revolves around it. So it's pretty interesting. What about you, Dave? Any expectations versus reality? Anything interesting there to share?
Yeah, I think going into probably heading towards the end of the summer, we expected a lot more of our merchants to really double down on social media ads and video content, right? Coupled with either discounts or volume buys, and then we also expected to see a lot of requests come in for hey, what can we do once we get traffic to the site to convert better, right? So was it offering alternative payment methods? Was it the buy online, pick up in store? Like so some people, I think like Greg said, some people came to us way too late and said, hey, October 10th, we want to add this. I was like, I don't know if we're going to get to it based on the queue. We've got a lot of people are shutting down, like, our code freezes and what we need to get to. So we definitely saw the people that planned well in advance were able to execute on some of those strategies. The other ones just went through with what their normal platform had offered. And now we're seeing, what we need to shuffle out, especially from a lot of our new clients that we were trying to engage early and say, hey, this is how it goes, right? During this season. It starts earlier and earlier every year, it seems. So let's get started now in the summer. So I think for a learning for us too, as an agency, is just to get ahead of that. Sometimes our clients don't come in the pipeline in the funnel till August, September, and we've already passed the planning. But it definitely was interesting to see how that went. So. Yeah,
no, that is interesting. Maybe those people who will take your email in June and July a little bit more serious about getting planned for Black Friday. So, people put things off and all that. So maybe this time next year, people will be happy that they took your advice on that one. What about, and this is just a question for anybody, what about in terms of, were there any specific industries that you saw there was kind of a big uptick in? I know personally here at Clubby, we saw a big increase in home and garden, as well as, beauty and health, fashion, fast fashion, things like that. Was there any interesting verticals or any specific industries that you all saw that had a really successful kind of Black Friday, Cyber Monday? We can just start with you, Dave. I know you were just going.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for us, our customers in the home and garden, Definitely saw a much more growth. Automotive was an area that we saw more growth, and I think it's mostly in restoration parts or performance enhancing parts, right? Things like that, or just accessories in general. So we saw that went up a lot higher online than it normally has in the past that I've seen, and I think that industry is starting to turn the corner too. I mean, they've always been behind, almost just like furniture too. I think home furnishing is starting to turn the corner a little bit with online sales, which has been talked about for a while, but they've traditionally been behind the ball with technology and websites and features like that. So those are probably the three that I saw the most. All of ours, everybody stayed pretty much on par as well as last year, like what they were averaging in this year. So I was kind of surprised to not see any dip or growth in a lot of other ones, that it stayed kind of flat.
Interesting. What about for you, Greg?
Yeah, I think, well, on us, like most of our clients, a lot of our biggest clients are in the fashion industry, and we definitely saw like a huge increase in that, especially in the items that are usually like never on sale on their site, like as main staple of those brands, like are on sales are usually during the holiday, and that's where people are rushing to get it at a lower price. A lot of kitchenware as well, like any type of items that are for the home, for the house, etc., and they are also a great gift for people during the holidays. We've seen a big uptake on that, and like I think mostly for us was a fashion industry that was completely blowing up, and it seems like Shopify is supporting that with their data as well.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes with me too. Most of the majority of the items I bought were kind of in the home appliance area. I bought I know they're not watching, I won't spoil anything. I bought my parents a new air fryer, so they'll enjoy that. Bought my fiance a Roomba. So I think a lot of those, people get gifts, get the idea of anything to help out around the house, make things easier. So that makes sense. What about you, Brian? Any cool industries or any interesting industries that you guys saw, an uptick in, or kind of, a lot of the same?
Yeah. I think as many turn to the outdoors during the pandemic, that trend has definitely continued. I think for many outdoor enthusiasts, runners, hikers, climbers, bikers. I think there's one very specific category that we saw that took off, and that was outdoor gloves. So not outdoor gloves in terms of gardening per se, but outdoor gloves in terms of if you're out in the snow, or if you're snowboarding, skiing, if you're on a mountain bike, there's an array of subcategories within gloves. But that was a hot one for us. So it was interesting. I think that those trends and activities post-pandemic, if you want to call it that, are still there. So that was an interesting one for us.
Yeah, it seems like as we get further out of the pandemic, like you mentioned, more of these, like people wanting to get outside, going back to what Dave said, people getting really into car restoration, gardening, really anything that they can do to kind of get out of their house. So it's interesting to see that those trends are continuing. Brian, staying with you, as we move through the rest of the holiday season, heading up to, Christmas and the other holidays, what do you think is gonna, what's your prediction for that? Are you thinking a lot of the same? Are there any of your, potential clients you work with that are adjusting strategies from what they saw from Black Friday for the rest of the holiday season? Kind of just give us an idea of kind of your thoughts for the next, few weeks as we roll into Christmas.
Sure. Merchants and brands will continue to be aggressive with promotions. Obviously, we saw a lot of customers multiply the number of promotions this year, and that's I think with some of the macro conditions, everyone wanted to be aggressive. But this is where we're going to see the quote unquote close promotions. Time's up. They're going to open back up. That's for sure. I think in particular, you'll see promotions that are going to be geared towards any products or categories where there's ample inventory, right? So this is where you'll see the bestsellers messaging on the homepage or a certain block to really not just capitalize on the season, but capitalize on the entirety of the season, in particular to inventory that's available. So everyone will continue to be aggressive. The season is far from over.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? Same question. Any changes in strategy going on? A lot of the same kind of, keeping up with that aggressive marketing type of thing. Anything different heading into the rest of the holiday season for your teams?
Yeah, I think especially a lot of what we've seen, and probably goes along with what Brian said, is people will continue to discount and push those items that they have good inventory on, and some spots where they're over allocated inventory, they'll push those more. They're also starting to see that the Google ad spend and even like the social media spend is been going up and up for cost. So they're looking at really how can they drive that better. And then along with that, playing into it, I think, is shipping speed concerns, right? So a lot of people have stories from last year that they bought online. They thought they got the order in time. They didn't. They didn't get it until after the holidays. And it's just because, UPS, FedEx, USPS, all the carriers everybody was overwhelmed with the number of packages. And I think now a lot of people are messaging, hey, get your order in, by this date a lot earlier than they normally have. And then they're pushing the buy online, pick up in store if they have that capability already, because that's going to help drive them, purchases up till the last day if it's in stock. But definitely pushing the marketing messaging through that. And people that are already using SMS that may have been experimenting into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I think are going to turn the needle a little bit more on SMS because of some of the results that we've seen come through. Just even with our client base and what we saw through Klaviyo, the number of SMS engagement was higher than email for the first time that I've seen ever, basically. Since that's been going on. So I think we'll continue to see that trend, and people realize, I think one of my clients was telling me today, 55% of their revenue, they attributed to either social, email, or SMS. So, I think those are the three channels that'll continue to stay hot for them.
Yeah, it seemed like right after we got through Cyber Monday, you started to get those texts and emails, like you said, that was like, there's still time, order by X date to receive by Christmas, so people are really hitting that hard, like you said, to make sure to get in orders, get in everything before, shipping kind of comes to a hold, or at least they can't have those same type of guarantees. So that all makes sense. What about you, Greg?
I was going to say one more thing too, is just add on. The other thing I forgot to mention there is the flow for like abandoned carts through SMS has increased. Like I haven't seen that in the past either. So almost anything that I got enticed by either in social or some SMS or even just on their site, I've been then retargeted with some kind of SMS, come back and recover your cart before it's gone, before the inventory is gone type of messaging. So I've seen better use of that than just an abandoned cart email series.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. Greg?
Yeah, I mean, for all of this messaging, I do agree. Like it's getting better and better at telling you, like, depending on the flow that you're going through. Like, by the way, you forgot that you have X amount of time before those items are not going to be on sales anymore, or you have X amount of time. The same way you said it, like the timeout before you can actually get them for Christmas, or even like, hey, those items are almost out of stock. If you still want them, you better jump on it now. All those type of messaging and really strong email marketing or SMS or any messaging like that is really important and strong. And I think in terms of the sales aspect of it, like I do believe that all the sites are going to keep on their sales on, but they might not put all of their collection within the sale. And as I mentioned before, like all those bestseller item might not be in between, but just for the big time. So Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Boxing Day, where people are really rushing into the website. Apart from that, like even another link to the email and also the review, like any type of, if you bought item, you're asked to review, and potentially you get sales on, you get additional sales on something else. And even just the fact that you go on the site to review an item that you bought for yourself, for like you would be enticed to look at other goods. And big plus for that as well is search and product recommendation. Like every time you land on a site, being able to get recommended items that potentially you're like, oh my God, that would be good for my girlfriend. That would be good for my brother. That would be good for anyone in your family or anyone that is dear and close to you. That's always the best way to spark interest and grow the AOV and the size of your cart for your clients. And also making it easy for someone to shop from mobile or from a desktop, because we clearly saw it's either Salesforce, Adobe, or Shopify. All of it increased mobile traffic and mobile conversion rate actually compared to the years. And it's really important that all the sites that we build are we make sure that those sites can be really well browsed through on the phone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know me personally, I don't think I did any shopping from something that wasn't either my tablet or my iPhone, you know? So having that mobile responsiveness, things like that's a killer for a website. If you don't have that same kind of customer experience across your desktop as you do on your mobile, that's definitely going to cause some issues for you there. So something interesting that I picked up on, all three of you guys mentioned things about, you know, stocks of product and things like that for your customer. Did you guys have any issues with stock availability for your clients during Black Friday, Cyber Monday? And if so, you know, how do you help them manage kind of going through any sort of stock availability, issues, and things like that? Greg, we'll just go ahead and start with you.
I think, to be honest, it's a bit of PTSD from 2 years ago already, during COVID, where all the logistic channel and everybody went completely crazy in terms of online purchase, and at the same time, like, how are we gonna be able to deliver that good to our client? And you truly saw a difference in the client's perspective and understanding of how important that aspect of their business is, because it was kind of like left to the side. Like, our site is beautiful, it's shit to get the stuff to a client, but our site is beautiful. It was kind of like the general way you were saying, especially for growing brand. They weren't focusing as much on the logistic, the returns as well, and just making sure that they have a strong order management, and just the way they are in the order. So I think from those learning and from some how crazy it was during the pandemic, I think clients and agency realize how important it is to do that in advance, and to really plan well in advance to make sure that your logistic is strong and that it's well set. And even just telling the client, like, are you sure, like, just making the client itself and making sure that they're well staffed in order to have their warehouse and their inventory ready to jack up the number of order.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. What about for you, Brian?
No, not as potentially anticipated. As Greg mentioned, I believe the early prep helped with this topic of stock availability. You know, if I'd say brands and merchants did really well with forecasting. So if there was a specific SKU or a couple of SKUs that were forecasted to be short on inventory, then, you know, the pivots in that situation were somewhat easy, just in terms of product positioning on the site. We had one client who did some bundling a little bit differently, so they wouldn't get kind of trapped in selling a bundled, you know, or a kit where they were going to be short. So you know, that the forecasting came in. So when we talk about prep early, it's not just systems and hosting and uptime, but of course it's product availability and how those are positioned on the site, you know, with search results. How, you know, are we going to be promoting some products over another one? So no major paper cuts in that realm. I think we did pretty good with stock availability.
Seems like the common theme throughout this has been planning, and then plan even earlier than you already are. So that hopefully, if there's one thing our audience can get from this, it's that. What about you, Dave? Anything interesting go on in terms of stock availability, or any interesting strategies to kind of alleviate some of those headaches that maybe clients have seen in the past?
Yeah, I think, you know, from a planning perspective, right, and staying on that theme, we definitely saw them get the right amount of inventory in their high value categories, right? So the ones that they were worried about selling out that they may have done in the past. Now there's still some concerns with a couple of clients that they may sell out before the holiday season's over, but to them they were okay as long as they could get through the majority, the bulk of the season, and sell through that inventory and not be stuck with a ton of leftover. But the other ones came into sort of the sites that actually where they were running a platform that could actually like Clevo, right? They could sort and merchandise that for them and pull the low stock out of the search results or even out of the merchandising categories, right? Those ones were good. Where they didn't spend as much time. I said they spent more time forecasting and planning and been promoting products that they may have been looking heavier in inventory than they were, as opposed to some of our clients that just were running the out of the box native searches of the platforms. They were juggling somewhat, making sure the inventory was good, but they, for the most part, they were pretty good, I think, in terms of keeping availability what they needed. It's just a matter of what effort went into managing that.
That's great. No, that's great to hear. There weren't too many, or really any horror stories in terms of that. I can't imagine there's much worse for a seller than when you have products people want and you can't keep that availability. So I'm sure that's extremely frustrating for those people. So, guys, I know we're kind of coming up on time here. So just a few closing questions. I guess I know I have an idea of what the answer is going to be because we've kind of highlighted the idea of planning and planning ahead. But what's some advice that you all can give retailers and they're supporting vendors and partners right now? Kind of just some advice going into the holidays or coming out of things. What's just some general advice that you guys can give? Brian, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think across the board, this is an important time to obviously collect and use first-party data and better understand your customers and their expectations as a consumer, expectations for the new year. So my advice is, hey, continue to collect this data and be diligent about protecting this data, stating the obvious, and then get fun with it. Use gamification or loyalty points to further enrich this data. This entire journey to collect first-party data takes time. It's not just a 1 month thing. So I always suggest, hey, approach this as a long-term initiative and strategy. With that being said, I've seen some brands just kind of browse their own analytics or their search patterns, and others really invest in spending time in their analytics and search patterns. So slow down, spend some time in really learning what your customers are doing.
Yeah, kind of doing some self-scouting, if you will, kind of understanding what the your own analytics are and then kind of pivoting based off those. That makes a ton of sense. What about you, Dave? Any wise words of wisdom for us as we head into the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely people need to understand what their marketing, what data is working and what's not working, right? What offers are great, which ones weren't. Continue to push on those, right? Continue to gather that data. And if you're missing those points that you can't make those decisions, start trying to remember that and make a plan for next year to start gathering and getting those better metrics points so that, throughout the year and even into the next holiday season, you're planned. And definitely, around your merchandising, make sure, I think people at this time of year, they're stressed on trying to figure out what to buy for somebody. Anywhere you can do some of those recommended gift categories and take some of the guesswork out for people and just make it a quick spot. A lot of the really well done sites for that will offer best gift for men, women, kids, and different age groups, and even different kind of, depending on the site you're in, maybe different activities they do, right? And then I always say, if you've got extra things on your site that are not standard and maybe other people and your competitors aren't doing, like buy now, pay later methods, your, buy online, pick up in store, if those methods are, something that is a good differentiator for you, make sure you're promoting them so people know up front that those are options so that they might complete the sale quicker because maybe they're looking for somebody that has a specific buy now, pay later option, or they want to be able to buy online and pick up in store. Promote those heavily up front if those are really good selling points for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Really kind of figuring out where you differentiate from maybe others in your field and then really make sure you're promoting that. That makes a ton of sense. Giving people a reason to kind of remember you or at least a reason to separate yourself. That makes a ton of sense. What about you, Greg? Any wise words here for us?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much hammering on what both Brian and Dave said, just focusing, like, best way to gather, it's the best moment to gather, respectfully gather customer data, and the importance of omni-channel. If you're lucky enough to have a physical location and have a well set omni-channel kind of way for your shopper to shop, definitely something that you can push forward, saying, hey, you missed out on the shipping timeout, but you can actually also pick it up in store if you want. You still have time for that. I'd say it's also a great time for customer acquisition, because some customer might not be sure to they want to get to know your brand or something like that, and the fact that your price are lower is a good way to acquire some new customer and potentially grow your customer base through that, which definitely something that you should focus on making sure that when you target your social, it's not only for your trusted customer, but also for new people that would potentially that have never bought with you before, but that you could leverage those sales for it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great points all around, guys. I really appreciate it. So in closing, I just have one final question. As we move out of the holiday season and kind of into 2023 and the new year, what are your guys' predictions? And Greg, I'll just stay here with you. We have a kind of that looming recession that's kind of hit, over everybody's head, and people think might be coming down the pipe here in 2023. I mean, what are your overall thoughts and expectations for 2023? And then, the idea of a looming recession, do you think that has any impact on sales, maybe during the beginning half of the year, or whether it be, maybe makes people be a little bit more conscious with where they're allocating their money? Just kind of thoughts in general on 2023, as well as any impact a recession could potentially have.
I mean, the beginning of the year is always a slower time for businesses, either retail, like online or in store. It's always like people have also, as we mentioned, like in the winter, depending on where you're from, like you're definitely going to spend more on energy for your house, and the cost of energy going up. I mean, there's a lot of economical aspect and geopolitical aspect that goes into that, but it's not the topic here. I do think that customers are going to be a bit more cautious. Right now, it's kind of like the craze of the holiday and the end of the year, and people are kind of happy to have that moment with the family. Do believe that the first quarter is definitely going to be slower, especially considering everything that's happening in the world. But depending on how it shapes out and how the economy picks back up, I do think that starting Q2, Q3, like we're going to see the same type of growth that we've seen in the last year.
Yeah, amazing. Dave?
Yeah, I think an area that we're seeing, and I think the trend is going that way, is digital marketing is not just a norm, but it's a must for most e-com businesses, where it's just not enough to throw a site up, hope you've got some good native SEO and organic SEO working, right? So I think the demand for clicks and virtual advertising, just keeps increasing, but everybody's budgets, especially the US, I think are getting trimmed down to necessary spend or be able to prove out that ROI. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that you're going to see coming to next year, is that how can companies build those strategies and automation to create specific, customer data profiles that might be able to help them target better with social media, digital ads, even their SMS and email marketing. The good thing is there's platforms out there, but then you've got to watch your spend on how many third-party platforms you're adding. But so you got to have a solution that you look at all your data. And I think Brian said it too about the first-party data. That's going to be key to making sure you have a solid plan. And I think that'll become more normal for people now to start understanding what that means, and people, the bigger players, I will say, will start focusing and paying attention to that in 2023.
Yeah, no, that's all makes sense to us. Brian, once you finish us off here with some closing remarks.
Sure. I think early numbers and feedback show, macro conditions, at least right now, are not in. They did not impact Cyber Week, but I think this will be an interesting season as we track returns, especially as it relates to a looming recession. So while it's tempting to celebrate numbers and massive increases, this return season this year it could be different, and it could change the tune. It could change the narrative for many brands and retailers. But I think brands are really starting to think about how to lessen the pressure for financial success purely on such a condensed period of time, Cyber Week. Of course, we see what all the major big players are doing. Amazon with Prime Day. We know the magnitude of Singles Day and APAC. And, so brands are really trying to build these kind of micro holidays or special days specific to the brand so that they could be a little bit more linear in their business, because there's just a lot of pressure riding on a couple days or a week. And so how do you alleviate that pressure? And I think we'll see brands do more. They'll be more creative with their own Prime Day or whatever you want to call it.
Yep. No, that makes sense. It seems like the big kind of overarching themes for this webinar was planning ahead and then getting creative and separating yourself. So that completely makes sense. That's really all we got today, guys. I'm just wrap up here. I want to thank you again for your time, Greg, Brian, and Dave. Really appreciate you all hopping on. This is going to conclude this year's version of our Black Friday Cyber Monday Teardown. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Happy holidays, and we'll talk to you in the new year. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.